Hi, I'm Seamless, and this is finally the 5K QA answers video. I've had every single issue it's possible to have while trying to make a video, and a couple that aren't related, but happened anyway when I tried to make the video. But now the video is the thing that's happening now, and if you're seeing this, that means I've succeeded, and further stupid things haven't occurred. So I'm gonna get straight to it. I'm just gonna read some questions. Okay, the most recent question was, why am I called Seamless? Okay, Seamless. Seamless is actually a gamer tag. Not actually a gamer, not actually an Xbox Live gamer tag, because I don't have an Xbox, nor do I play Xbox games. Actually, I do have a Live account. I use it for MSN, but I haven't used MSN in like 30 years. But I use it for games, and I decided to appropriate it for my YouTube channel, because at the time it was mostly game-related stuff. And that's really all there is to that. The R, if you're curious, the Seamless R is because this is the internet and it's been around forever. Basically, everything that's a real word has been taken as a username for anything that matters. So, in order to distinguish it, I put a little R in there that basically means real. It's like, I'm the real Seamless real. I'm the real one. Something like that. Sometimes like I have to put like Seamless R1 because Seamless R is taken too. I'm really annoyed if it turns out that happens because my name has been kind of like put around places, and so other services are like, oh, that's a name that we should squat. Not reading that question. Where can I find some of your original work? Ding. Mixing and mastering process. I plan on doing a video on that pretty soonish. I've been saving that for when I'm really out of like bass ideas, but I suppose it's useful. My nose, Jesus! I've touched on it in some of my making of videos about like what I do, but mostly, it's all about multi-band compression. That's what that is. I use Maximus in FL Studio, and I'm trying to think if there's really anything like really very important. Multi-band compression and also side chaining, especially for the electro stuff, because the percussion is all just like doof, 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 doof. Take each of those doofs and you side chain the rest of the track with that, and make it pretty hard, and it creates this nice little hole where the doof fits in, and that means that the levels, I mean, they don't stay level, but they stay a lot more level than they would have if that hole wasn't there to fit in the kick. It also means that you don't have to do stuff like scoop out frequencies between bass and kick drum, because you're scooping everything. You're scooping all frequencies with the side chaining, because it's amplitude, not frequency. However, in some of my mastering processes for like the metal stuff, I will split everything by frequency, and I'll actually side chain frequencies into other frequencies. So like the mids of the drums into the mids of the guitar, so that whenever a snare hits, it'll scoop the guitar, the mid frequency of the guitar, but the rest of it will stay there. The high frequencies and the low frequencies will intermingle the way they're supposed to. Another reason why I don't just put the snare like as an instrument channel into the guitar is because at this point I have rendered out audio, and that's what I'm using to do that. On the masters and the drum bus, I use Maximus just straight up. This is multi-band compressor. I utilize the saturation, the soft saturation a lot. What that is it's basically it cuts at well, you can determine where it is, but I cut it at 0 dB, and it'll distort audio that tries to go above that, as opposed to compression, which gently moves the transients around. It's just cut, and it will distort things. But because it's multiband, I compress the lows, and I use normal compression for that, because you don't want the lows to distort, but you want, I want everything else to distort because I like how it sounds, and it means that things can get to be very loud. The important thing that you do though is that when you do a lot of really big compression, like you compress things, and you don't want to do that on the master. You want to do that on the bands, however many bands there are. You want to do all your compression there, and then you basically just want to move the master slightly up and down to ensure that it's around 0 dB. And the reason you do that is because the whole point of multiband compression is that a common problem. In fact, the side chaining artifact, the sound that's a compression artifact. And what I mean by that is that it's an undesirable sound that you get from particular compression issues. And one of them is when you have, like, say, a really loud bass presence and not a whole lot of everything else. And if the bass gets to be too loud, the compressor will compress it. And if it's compressing everything, that means everything will be compressed by that. So it makes everything else really quiet. And that's actually what sidechaining is. Sidechaining does it on purpose, but I have to imagine that's where it's from, because that's what would happen. But multi-band compression does away with all that by doing all the bands individually. So that means that if you do have a really high bass presence, it'll crush the bass and then leave the mids and the highs alone. And then you can compress the mids and the highs individually, and it makes for a much more transparent compression. However, I'm not going for transparency, as you may have heard in a lot of my tracks. I'm going for hard and heavy as possible, because that's what I like in my stuff. I'll do it more in, like, an actual video on that, since you know what I'm talking about. Why don't I release my tracks and labels? I don't really need to, or want to. Like, I don't want to sell my music. I mean, I will, if I've sent some demos out and whatnot. But if, like, a thing happens, I'll do it. I'm not gonna be like, no, I'm against labels. I want my music to be free. I just haven't. It's not really a big concern. This segues into another question, being like, well, do you have a day job? Do we make a living on this? I do not have a day job. I do make my living on this. It's a combination of It's a combination of ad revenue, the project sales, the pay what you want for projects and whatnot, and sample pack sales, and also a little bit of side work that I do in the studio here. I can't see it because I'm too lazy. I don't want to open the door, but there's actually another room over there where I record drums and instruments and shit, and I record, like, metal bands in the local area. That's a tiny bit, but all that together combines to be pretty great, like, part-time job income. And the whole reason that's like viable at all is because I live in my mother's house, which I will continue to do until forever, because this house rules, and I built a studio in it, so I'm kind of stuck here. And but she supports me. She supports my life and what I do. Another question that I suppose is important to answer right now is that I am 24 years old. I was born in September of 1988, and I am 24. So there's that. Beard. I've had this for about 3 years. 3 years ago it was down here, but 3 years ago I joined a metal band. I created a metal band. They joined me, and it was determined that I should be the beard guy because everyone else in the band had, like, a job, or they had a job, or, like, were existed too much in respectable environments to have a giant beard. And I did not. I was doing this, so they're like, you should be the beard guy, because every metal band needs to have a beard guy. Preferably more than one, but if you can only have one, then you should have that one. So I'm the beard guy. It helped that I basically had a beard since I was 14, and I hate shaving, so it's a win for everybody. That's why beard happens. This was an interesting question. Do I ever feel limited by the general tonality of Harmor and Vocodex processing? It sounds pretty uniform. Well, it sounds like that because of the stuff that I do to it. It's not because it's not like the especially Vocodex. Harmor, I mean, you can really do anything with Harmor, but Vocodex, there isn't really like the vocoder sound. The sound of a vocoder is when you are the bandwidth is too small, and you hear that weird glassy kind of atonal sound, and that is what a vocoder sounds like. But if you're vocoding two things together, it'll sound like the two things, and I tend to use the same two things a lot, and that's because at least in the beginning, I wanted more consistency with the sound so that people can really see what's going on. But it's a good point that I should probably branch into other things to put in the Vocodex. Like, I mean, I did an experiment with putting two synths, like the one FM and the one not FM, and then FM like modulating the carrier with the FM modulator, and that worked out pretty good. That was the main bass from Third Watch, the top track, and yeah, but it has nothing to do with Harmor and Vocodex. It's basically just what I do with it. So his real question is, do I feel that all my stuff sounds pretty uniform after a while? Yeah, I mean, I accept that. I accept that that's kind of a thing that happens. Why and when did I start learning how to do stuff? I went to a performing arts high school, and in this high school there was a class called electronic music production, commonly referred to as techno music class. And that's because, and I'm sure you're all familiar with this phenomenon, the people that are not terribly familiar with electronic music tend to call all of it techno. Regardless, that's the class I took, and this was in 2004, and the software that we had available was Reason and FL3. Fruity Loops 3. It was still called Fruity Loops because it wasn't sued by Kellogg yet. FL4 was out, but they just didn't get it. They just had FL3, which doesn't make any sense because I'm pretty sure that a lifetime free updates thing was a thing back then. Anyway, I used it in the school and made some pretty terrible music, and then when I got home, I was like, "Wow, this is great!" And I had her buy me FL4. So, and then I just used that for 8 years. It's important to note that I understand FL as a DAW. It's kind of weird in compared to other DAWs, and that's fine. And the whole reason why it's not for me is because when I started FL4, it was very bare bones. It didn't have even a third of the stuff it can do now. And so as I was using it, they added more features in the new versions, and I kind of just grew up with it. And so every time one of these things was added, it was new to me, and I paid attention, and I became good at it. And so now I know everything that's happened between 4 and 10, and soon to be 11. And if I were to have started with 11, which is coming out in March, presumably, I would have no idea what I'm doing. And I can understand that some people who are used to more traditional DAW setups, that have normal tracks and normal mixture windows and not terribly modular and whatnot, I can understand how this would be very, very weird. Except for the piano roll. The piano roll is the best. But the whole reason why I'm good at it is because I've been doing this for 8 years. That's important to note because people are like, "Oh, I've been doing this for 2 years and here's a track," and it's pretty good for 2 years. You should hear the crap I made 2 years ago. It's awful 2 years ago. Even 2 years ago. It was mostly metal, wasn't it? Because I didn't really. I thought I was gonna be a metal musician for forever, but yeah. But 8 years. I've been doing this for 8 years, and I've only really started doing the stuff that you guys know me for August. It's been very recent, and the accumulation of all kinds of stuff, and finally realizing what Citrus can do. Citrus came out with FL4. I've been sitting on that for 8 years. How does that make you feel? But people coming out being like, "I've been doing this for some months, and I still don't get it, and I don't understand. Maybe I suck." Months. I mean, maybe I suck. That took me 8 years to get to be this all right at it. It's all relative. Okay, why haven't I collaborated with you yet? Lots of people have asked me to do collaborations, and I have done collaborations in the past, and they've been really great. The whole second opinion thing was really useful in terms of creative endeavors, but it requires tremendous amount of organization and free time on my part, and I'm presumably their part as well. But I don't have any of that. I'm awful at organizing things, and I seriously don't have free time. And I don't want to start something and leave them hanging, because I already have started things and I totally left them hanging. And I feel really bad, because I should feel bad. And I don't want to continue to feel worse. So, if I don't accept your collaboration request, it's not because I think you're terrible. It's because I don't want to, start something and then leave it there. And just have one more thing hanging over my head about something that I gotta do that I'm not going to do because I have more things I need to do. Stay on top of this video stuff and do more music and tutorials and make a new sound pack for Toby Emerson and Black Octopus. Someone actually did ask if I'm doing Neurobase tools too, and I am. It's the thing that I'm doing, so be prepared. What bass guitar do you use? That was kind of a weird question because, I only have a video where I use it ever, but I'll show you my bass. This is my bass. I do have a video with this. If you've never seen this before, then I'm sure this is kind of surprising, but this is what I call the Super Bass Double Keytar, for obvious reasons. And the bass part of this is an Ibanez SR 500, 506, if I was 506, 6 version. It's got Bartolini Mark 1 pickups, and Bartolini, as far as I'm concerned, are the best bass pickups that you can get. This came with them stock, and that was the greatest thing ever. It's got damage on it, and it came like that, and I bought it like this because it was cheap. It was way cheaper. I don't think I would want to buy a whole new bass to drill wooden supports into it so I could have keyboards. Why do I have keyboards? This is for my band. This is for my metal band, Krakatoa, and basically what this is a solution to a problem. The problem was I was originally a keyboardist, and we couldn't hold on to bassists to save our life. Like we didn't even get to our third live show before we went through like 7 bassists, like before we had been practicing or whatever. So like I got mad and I was like, you know what, whatever. I'm gonna put keyboards on bass and do both. I'd already kept the bass parts pretty simple because we didn't know any bassists, and I basically I wanted to like increase the range of possibility by being like, okay, we'll do really simple bass parts and just teach whoever we get bass lines. Anyway, that's what this is. Wait. More questions. More people talk about collaborations. How do I make music? Why did I start making these videos? So this guy asked this question about why did I start making these videos, and framing it by saying that most artists who are only interested in profit don't tell anyone how they made their stuff because they want to keep it secret, have that secrecy to protect their worth. I actually think my worth is that I know these things and I can tell them to people. I don't actually think that my music is the primary reason that people listen to me or watch my videos is because they want to make their own music. I mean, my audience is primarily producers. And as a producer, like, listening to other music is great, but whenever you listen to it, you are just kind of thinking about how you can apply what happened to that track to something that you want to make, or how you can make it better. So I know that at least I believe that my primary worth to anyone on YouTube, especially, is my tutorials, and that's what I focus on. And so I mean, I started making these videos at first because I didn't. The FM synthesis anyway. Like I knew that there were lots of tutorials about how to make the kind of sound that it makes, but there were none of them that were actually based in real FM synthesis. The few that were using FM8, and they weren't even really doing like the actual FM part. They were using it as like a multi oscillator synth, just a normal subtractive synth, and it made really bad sounds. And they did that. Same thing with Massive, a little bit less than Massive because the wavetables are just already FM wavetables, so you don't have to worry about that. But I knew that there was a certain niche, especially with FL stuff, because like I had no idea that switchers could do that. Like I knew that it was FM synth, but I didn't know like the really fundamental basics of FM. And when I did research and found out like the real fundamentals of it, I realized that I had just been doing it wrong for 8 years. And because I'd never ever seen anyone ever do that with Citrus, I knew that everyone else was too. So making videos of that was important. And the Harmor resampling thing. But I knew no one had known about that because Harmor's new. Harmor is still new, and back then it was like brand new. So I was pretty sure that I was among the first people to do that. The Vocodex thing, the vocoder process base has obviously been around for quite a while. But how that works and how to control it is difficult, especially when you're not using Vocodex. Vocodex, as far as, I mean, no one has showed me otherwise. I have not been able to see anything else, but Vocodex is clearly the best vocoder. There are a couple others, and I haven't been able to use them. But nope, like whenever I say this, I say a lot. No one's corrected me, so I have to. I'm just gonna keep going to say that Vocodex is just really good. It's a really good vocoder. And if you use basic vocoders, you don't have a whole lot of control over things like modulator pitch shifting and the release and attack curves per band and all that kind of stuff. Like you don't have that sort of control, and having that control is the key to make it not sound terrible. And so I haven't actually done a tutorial about like just how Vocodex works, and I have been planning on doing that too. But I've obviously done a lot in how that incorporates with bass, especially FM bass. Okay, someone. This is interesting, kind of a nerdy question, nerdy answer I'm going to give. Why saw and square waves show different frequencies instead of like one, like a sine wave? Now, this is actually something that is demonstrated pretty well with Harmor, because Harmor, being an additive synthesizer, um, additive synthesis, if you don't know, is basically a sound is generated by adding on more sine harmonics. So like, you got your fundamental, like your note, do, and then you add on like a whole lot of harmonics, and that creates a different like textural sound. And if you were to look at an oscilloscope, like a normal, like a straight up oscilloscope, and look at the little generator, and if you were to make a wave shape, it would just show one wave shape. You know, it would show the sine wave, and then the one like the triangle wave, the square wave, the sawtooth wave, but it would sound more full and more rich. And when we look at the like an equalizer after looking at a triangle or a sawtooth wave, for example, you see it's full of frequencies. Well, that's because that's a digital representation of the oscillator, the oscillation. And analog, it would just be the oscillation, but because it's not analog, we have to make the digital representation. And if you were to record, if you were to look at a speaker making the triangle wave and the sawtooth wave, there's all kinds of frequencies, but that's not because it's generating those frequencies. But in order to represent that digitally, we have to generate those frequencies and make the speaker make those movements. And so that's why it looks like that in an equalizer, as opposed to just being a single, just a one point in time, like a sine wave would, which is just a pure smooth motion, not no sharpness, which would create extra timbers and on analog to speaker movement, thus being have to recreate it in digital. But that's what Harmor does, is that it's all sine waves, and then it stacks and creates until it has the appropriate um, harmonic content to make a triangle or a sawtooth wave, which is what it starts with. Why aren't I on Monster Cat? I'm not on the label, but I am on the YouTube network. I am on the Monster Cat YouTube network. And basically what that means is that the ads that are played on my videos are the ones that are from the Monster Cat YouTube network and not from Google. I've only been doing this for so long, so we'll see how that works out. But I am affiliated with Monster Cat. What plugins effects do I put on my master channel? I put an EQ to cut 30 hertz and below, and Maximus. That's usually what's on the master. Or I'll have more than one Maximus, because during the drop I push things really hard. But if I want, like in the chorus or the intro, to have soft, fluttery sounding things, and then they'll get distorted because of how hard I'm pushing it, and it doesn't sound very good. So I'll make another Maximus that's not as hard, so that I can have the softness and still be soft. But I don't really care when the drop's happening. I want it to be as hard as possible. How much acoustic treatment is necessary? That is dependent entirely on the shape of your room. This room is a cube, so I need a lot. And this prevents, because parallel surfaces will create standing waves, which will color how you hear things in your listening position. And that is bad. So the acoustic treatment that you're seeing breaks up those standing waves, and it makes it so that the rebounding waves are destructive. They interfere, and it doesn't do that, so that it's very like controlled sound going on. What computer do I have? My computer. This is a brand new computer. I just built it. It's got an i7 3770K Ivy Bridge quad core 3.5 gigahertz, 32 gigs of DDR3 1600 megahertz, a GTX 670, which, while being really awesome for playing video games, if you saw that one video I put on that other channel I have about Far Cry 3, and also does great for things like video rendering and GPU processing for stuff like that, which is what I got it for. I am actually kind of a Radeon guy, and but while they have their own GPU processing architecture, all the big guys use CUDA, which is the NVIDIA architecture, so I got one of those just to go with that. I'm running SSD for my hard drive, and also for a RAID SSD setup for my streaming disk, which I use to run projects from, so that I can have all my like big files set to stream from disk, and I can use East-West Quantum Leap libraries, which are all streaming because they're all too big to load the RAM. But I do actually have enough RAM. I have 32 gigs of RAM that I can do stuff like I can open up an entire Superior drummer, just open up all the samples. That's really awesome. And so this computer is the greatest thing on Earth, except for it wasn't a better, because there are some that are better, but mine is awesome. I'm using water cooling for the CPU, and the model of video card that I got has 3 fans, which means that they all can run slower in order to move the same amount of air, so that means it can be quieter. And so the machine itself is very quiet. In fact, the loudest thing in my room right now is the PA that I use to power my monitors. Monitors are KRK ST8s, and the whole reason I got those is because I happen to have a PA, and I wanted to stick to that technology because I wouldn't be using it if I got some powered speakers. But these are actually refurbished and damaged. There's like a blemish on them. I don't even know where it is, but I got them on a discount as well. Someone else asked, how do I accumulate all this shit? And it's mostly just because I'm really on the ball when it comes to like deals and well-timed Christmas presents. A lot of this also has to do with the fact that my parents are really awesome people. The computer that I got, which is new, was funded more or less entirely by you guys. You guys buying the projects for the pay what you want and viewing my videos, which created ad revenue, and buying the sample packs and whatever. That for the stuff that's being sold through Black Octopus, I get half of the income for that because I basically the deal I have with Toby Emerson of Black Octopus Sound is that I make all the stuff and he sells all the stuff. He sells stuff that other people make as well, but for everything that's to do with me that he sells, I get half of that because he does all of his own business. So it's very good. It's a very good arrangement for someone like me. Someone asked if I have like a practice regimen, and yes and no. Yeah, no in the sense that I don't do it on purpose, and yes in the sense that I just do it all the time because I do this for full time. Like, come on. But again, I've also been doing this for 8 years, and by the time Harbor came out, I was already very familiar with how ImageLine, the developers of FL Studio, does their stuff. And it wasn't that hard to wrap my head around, and except for the additive stuff, it took me kind of a bit to deal with that. They had an additive synth before called Morphine, which I never used because I didn't get it. I mean, I used a demo. I didn't see any worth in it, so I didn't buy it. I bought Harmer because the demos were much more convincing, let's put it that way. Ponies. Song structure. I don't really have a set like plan when I make a song. Like I make the drop, but I just kind of I start by making the sounds that I think sound good, and then I put the drums in there, and then I do like a fast master where like it's where it's kind of set. Like if you listen to the dubstep preview on my SoundCloud that I put it yesterday, that's more or less the mastered sound of that track. That's what's going to sound like. But I only have that section made. I made all the parts. I just kind of put them there, and then I cut up stuff, and put in things, and then I'll listen to it. And it'll sound good or it'll sound bad. And if it sounds bad, then I'll move it around until it sounds good, and then it'll eventually, to me anyway, then it'll eventually sound good. But I wouldn't have planned that to be what it sounds like. You know what I mean? And it's a lot of trial and error. Eventually, like for like guitar playing and stuff like melodies and metal and stuff like that, I did eventually learn how to make things be what I want them to be. So it's like I want to make this kind of song, so I know I got to do this, this, and this, and then that's how I can apply what I want to do to it. But for like this sort of stuff, I mean, it's still very new. I've only been doing like electro stuff for the past like 6 or so months, so I'm still trying to like feel out how to make things work. There's a conversation going on in the video about some guy being like, how do I make consistency in my track? I mean, if you notice, my tracks aren't really that consistent, like the sounds are, but some of them are a little bit harder, some of them aren't as hard. But some other guy suggested that you listen to commercial tracks and compare yourself to them, and that's a pretty good point. It's mostly that I don't listen to how they sound, as how I listen to how they don't sound. Like, you can have pretty huge creative freedom with how what the texture of your sound is. Like if I listen to most of Feed Me stuff, it feels like it's hard, but if you really listen to it, like the kick isn't really that hard. It's more of a rounded, smoother kind of sound, and the snares are really hard. And like I like my kicks to be hard. So like while I understand that Feed Me that does that and it has a certain effect on its tracks, I have to apply what I want and to understand that if I do make the kick harder, and then but I want to keep everything else to kind of the same texture. So I listen to what's not in the track, and then when I listen to my track, I see that what's not in that track is in my track, and I have to find out where that is and attenuate as necessary. But in general, if you listen to more professionally produced tracks, because I mean, to have your inspiration for stuff, you have had to have listened to this stuff before. So your ideas of what you think sounds good is shaped by what you listened to in the past that you liked. So listen to that, and you can pave your way. All of my inspirations were things like Noisia. The first Noisia track I listened to that really made a big difference in how I viewed awesome music was The Tide, in like 2005 or something, and like I never heard anything like that. It was so badass, and like I just immediately was trying to do that, and I obviously didn't because that was 2005. But that Spore, who was also Feed Me, Pendulum, who's also Knife Party, so like lots of mainstreamy kinds of sounds. I do appreciate Skrillex. Like 90% of the stuff that he does, I don't like to listen to, but I'm really a big fan of his sound design and production techniques. So that's about that for that. How long to start How long did it take you to start producing music at a confident level? So basically, I take it to mean how long before I felt that what I was doing was like, yeah, this is good. Basically, never. And I can only say that with hindsight because there were totally times in the past where I was like, yeah, this is the shit. And then like a month later, I'm like, wow, that was awful. Conversely, some of my older tracks I think are really cool that I thought were crap when I made them, and it's really just all relative, honestly. Like I kind of feel like now I've been doing the music and listening to music and producing for such a long time, and engineering in particular, that I can have I have a real knack for understanding the texture of songs, like the professional texture of songs versus my not so professional texture, and how to get there, how to make it so that mine is at least comparable to them sonically, not necessarily rhythmically or arrangement wise, or like just not very good, but it still doesn't sound bad. It doesn't sound like it hurts. You know what I mean? And that's what's important. So even if I make something that's bad, it's still a song. It's like it can be representative as a song, and not just like a bad test with horrible frequencies everywhere. You know what I mean? So I can do that now, and every once in a while I come up with something that I'm like, yeah, this is great. And like it's real hard not to incorporate, you guys' reactions to things. Like when I made Force Multiplier, I was pretty happy with that, but the consensus that I read out of people commenting on it was that I kind of phoned it in for that one. And like looking back on it, I guess I sort of did, but at the time I was like, this is a good track, yeah. And then you guys kind of piled on, but then I was like, I guess they're right. But I also have to not let you do that. I have to not let you get to my head, because if I do, then it changes how I proceed to make things. And like when I made Bass Antics, I considered Bass Antics to be like my first song because I made Dreams of Bass, but Dreams of Bass I made it as an example. I set out to make that using only FL stuff, and then Bass Antics, I did make using only FL stuff, but that wasn't on purpose. I just found that I didn't need anything else, and I didn't make that for anything or for any reason other than a test. I put it online, and people flipped out about it, and like. So I kind of used that as like my baseline. Like Impulse Gang was made using almost entirely all the assets from Bass Antics and just made a different arrangement, and changed some sounds in there. And then I spread out to Menagerie, and I think Force Multiplier was next. But even while I was doing Force Multiplier, I knew that I was going to make Third Watch. I knew how I was thinking about that, and I was very proud of that when I came out. It's because it was a lot. Glitch Hop is a lot harder than I thought it was. Like. Man, it was really hard, but good. So I like that. Do I like classical music? Yes. Sure. Ponies. Get my tracks on Spotify. I guess I could. I could like put them all up as like an EP or something on CD Baby, and then put them up on all the places. But, eh. I spend a lot of time in front of FL, like a lot. FL actually keeps track of your working hours, like how many hours you spend working on a track, and most of mine are like in the 30s, which lots of people have told me that feels like a small amount, but it's consecutive. Like usually when I get a track idea and that I know I want to work with, I work on it until I can't, like physically, and because I don't do anything else, I can just do that. But I spend a lot of my time. I also spend a lot of time like building sounds and experimenting and resampling crap and then doing stuff like that. And so a lot of time isn't spent directly working on a track, but it's also spent like just making bits and things. And then that usually is what I use to make tutorials or whatever. Is when I do dick around like that and I come up with something cool. I'm like, yeah, people should know about this, and then I make a tutorial. I have okay. I do have a musical background. Like I have had. My parents put me into piano lessons when I was 8 and 9, and I stayed with them until I was 16, and then I went to performing arts high school, and then I took more piano lessons when I was in college. And I went to college for music theory as a degree, and then I dropped out because I was stupid, and I just started doing this full time. And but I do have like traditional and like classical musical backgrounds, and believe me, that helps. It helps to know the difference between a minor and a major scale. It helps to know certain modes. I don't even know all the modes, some modes. And although, however, even before I was taught scales, um, I learned progressions and how and melodic like types and progressions, but by dicking around for years and years. And then eventually, I just knew certain patterns would sound a certain way, and that I could work with that. And like now I know why they sound a certain way, but I kind of already knew that before I went to go learn it. But that's not practical because that took years, like years and years and years and years. And I'm pretty sure you guys don't want to spend years and years and years and years learning what a minor scale is. So if you're going to ask, is a music education important to writing music? Yeah, yeah, it is. It makes your life easier. Makes your life easier. Long term, short term plans for the channel. So short term, I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing. Long term, I kind of want to do a stream, but my internet connection sucks, and like my upload is just super bad. I did some tests earlier with some people, and it worked out pretty okay, but like it was real touch and go. I was thinking, I mean, people have suggested that I do a video series of just me making a song, but I don't know how like effective that would be. You know what I mean? And like I could try doing that if you really want me to, but mostly just I'm just gonna make tracks tutorials. Um, this video that I'm doing now, and like that's pretty much my plan. I don't think I have much of a plan. I have whatever my plans are. It's always moving towards making it more sustainable. Like, cause I'm doing this because I like doing it, but I'm also doing it because it makes me money. And if I can make enough money, that means I can just keep doing whatever I want to do. That's really what I want to do in life. I want to be in a position where I can do whatever I want to do, whenever I want to do it. And you know, having some awesome gear wouldn't help or wouldn't hurt, but I mostly just want it to be sustainable. And so far, the pay what you want model for the projects has worked out pretty well. And Toby is doing a really good job selling the preset pack and the sample pack. So there's kind of a future in this for me, I think. But I also know that I got to be careful. I got to be real careful, not to like let any of this get to my head, and to try and keep it real. I got to try and keep it real because I know that if I neglect it or just kind of take it for granted, it will go away, and I'll never get it back. So I understand this. How long have I been making dubstep? I have not been making dubstep. Although I just started. I just started making dubstep. So that will be my next track. I'm pretty sure I've answered most of the questions on the YouTube video. I think I had a similar thread of questioning going on my Facebook page, but most of those I don't believe are much different. You can check real quick if it will deign to load for me. Oh my god. It's like, I don't care. Jeez, okay. Wait, that was Thanksgiving. Holy crap. Facebook, you suck. Okay, whatever. So, if I manage to miss your questions, ask them again in this video, and I'll answer them in text. But I believe I got most of it. I believe I covered most things that need to be covered. Anyway, the whole point of this video was that this is a question and answer in celebration of reaching 5,000 subscribers, which is a completely awesome thing, and I'm super glad that you guys got me there. And in fact, it's already 5,197. So I've been really on the ball with trying to make this video, as you can see. But you guys rule. You guys are the coolest, and you enable me to do what I do. So, thank you. One thing that I will say to people is that they come to my channel, they watch a video, and then they ask a question that I've answered in other videos. And I know that I haven't been the best about like describing what's in the video, but I guess that's kind of my fault, isn't it? But check out my other videos anyway. I know it's kind of not necessarily efficient, but because I'm going to answer you by pointing you towards video. It's going to happen. So yeah, thank you. It's been nice. You're nice. Have a nice day.